Okay, hey everyone. So today we'll do a quick daily Leetcode problem. And I guess before I get into the problem, just quickly, what is Leetcode? I'm guessing a lot of you have used Leetcode as it's made its waves through the tech community in the last few years. People use it a lot for job interview prep, and a lot of the top tech companies, a big part of their interview process is, can you code up some algorithms? And they don't really use it for leveling. They'll use like the behavioral interview and the system design interview to see your level. But often the algorithm interviews will be a pass or fail, where you have to get at least like 3 or 4 algorithm questions correct. Especially companies like Google and Facebook, it can be pretty tough. And yeah, I know a lot of people don't like these algorithm type problems. And yeah, it is a bit unfair because there's some great coders out there that don't do much algorithms, and so they could fail the tech screen even though they're a good programmer. But I would say, 80% plus of good developers could get proficient at these algorithm type questions with, a couple of weeks practice. But it is maybe a bit disheartening that you have to spend so much time practicing for a job interview. But at the same time, you don't want job interviews to take a long time. So how can you measure someone's coding skills in an hour? It's not really feasible. You could play a game of chess and hope that indicates something. Maybe algorithms is a slightly better indicator, but it's still not going to be great. I think the main problem is if you're applying for multiple companies and having to interview with multiple companies, then it takes up a lot of time. You don't have time to properly show your skills. And then there's also credentialing, like universities and things give you credentials, but you can't really trust credential providers. So you can't really have a centralized system that ranks everyone, although maybe something like that will become the go-to method in the future. We'll see what happens. But anyway, you don't just have to use Leetcode for job interview prep. They say a Leetcode a day keeps a low TC away, but actually it can be nice if you're learning a new language such as Rust to solve a few of these problems. And then there's 2 reasons why that's a good thing. One is, if you have any bugs, because you're not using the language properly, because maybe you don't know that it does integer division towards 0 for negative numbers, or maybe you don't know that an unsigned integer can't be negative, and so you get certain bugs compared to Python where your index can be negative and get the last item in the array or something. So you find some edge cases in your code, because these algorithms, they have a lot of test cases that catch bugs. The other thing is, once you submit, you can see other people's solutions. And so it's always great to learn from the fastest performance algorithms submitted. But to be honest, the Leetcode performance, like the amount of time your algorithm takes in Leetcode, varies quite a lot between submissions, so it's not very accurate. Let's just jump into a problem. So, yeah. Max area of an island. So you can see these are like islands in the picture, and this dark orange one is like the biggest one, and it's of size 6. And so yeah, the output should be 6. Okay, 4 directionally connected. So yeah, this is like a typical kind of flood fill type question. So you could use flood fill or breadth first search, depth first search, whatever. I'll use flood fill because it's just pretty simple to implement. So yeah, this is what our algorithm will do. It'll start off on a square in an island, and then it'll just fill it up. And by filling it up, I mean I'll be changing the 1s to 0s and counting. So let's do that. So for every cell, well, first if grid is empty, return 0. So this can be the number of rows and the number of columns. So for every cell, we will just flood fill that. So the size of the island will be equal to what flood fill returns. And then our answer should just be a mutable value. So we'll return ounce. Ounce will be equal to the current answer dot max of size. So that's getting us the largest island, which is what they want. So now, what will this flood take? Well, we want grid to be mutable because we're going to mutate it in place. You just got to be careful mutating things. If there's like, if it's a concurrent environment or something like that. But so we'll pass a mutable reference to the grid so that it can be modified. We'll pass I and J, and we'll pass R and C as well. Why not? So now all we need to do is implement this method. So grid is a mutable reference to this. Oops. And I is a usize, J is a usize, R is a usize, and C is a usize. So number of rows and number of columns. So if grid I, so I'm going to make sure that I and J are always valid grid points. So you can't have an I and a J value that are off the grid. And I'll explain some reasons why I do it that way later on. So if we've got 0, just return 0. We've got a 1, so we'll change that to a 0. And so that means our answer is 1. Oh, we'll call it size to be consistent with this. So we'll return the size, and it needs to be mutable. So if I is greater than 0, then we want to flood copy and paste this. Then we can subtract 1. And this just, I could have gone I minus 1 greater or equal to 0, but that won't work because we're using a usize, and that will, once it goes to negative, it'll overflow to a really large number. So then the condition won't hold. And then we'll do the same for J. Second type. Oops. I haven't used this keyboard for a while. I need to call it there too. J minus 1. First, then, and our I is going downwards, so it's the number of rows. I plus 1. And now J is going left to right. So let's see. And J plus 1. Okay, so I think we're done. Let's see if this runs. Verify your email to execute or submit your code. Damn it. Alright, sorry about that. My Rusty Rob Leetcode account needed verifying. Alright, so we coded this up and now we're going to try submit. I should have actually tested it first. So, whoops. What's happening here? Missing a return type. So we need to say that this is I'd go usize, but because they want an I32 here, I'll just go I32. And then that's just going to infer that this is an I32 instead of a usize. So if we run that, grid can't be borrowed as mutable. Oh, we already have a mutable reference. So we're trying to get like a mutable reference of a mutable reference, which is, actually that would be interesting, as if it said, are you sure you want to get a mutable reference of a mutable reference? The Rust error messages are pretty good though. Let's have a look. The binding is already a mutable borrow. So that's kind of interesting. You know, it gives you lots of ways of fixing the error. So that's working, so we'll submit that. That's a bit disappointing, our first ever submission, and we've got a compile error, huh? Oh, 11 milliseconds. A little bit slow, huh? So this is where we can kind of look and see how other people did it. Well, 11 milliseconds ain't bad, but yeah, you can't really trust the Leetcode runtime. But let's just have a look anyway. So a lot of people have got 0 milliseconds. Okay. So they've just made a little depth first search method. Pretty similar to what we have, I guess. Guess they're looping through. Checking bounds, and then they depth first search if it's okay. I guess this is interesting, just continuing if it's 0, but I feel like the compiler probably would have optimized that out of our one. So it probably shouldn't make a difference. Oh well. There you have it. And yeah, I guess if there are more directions, generating the different directions is a bit nicer rather than typing all of these up, although just copying and pasting this didn't take too long. I feel like this is reasonably readable. Alrighty, enjoy your weekend.